Hello, and welcome to Facility Grid webinar, Standardization. Process and deliverables are the key to improving commissioning quality. Thank you for joining us. As a reminder, you're in a listen-only mode, so I cannot hear you. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask them using the GoToWebinar question widget, and I will answer as many as I can at the end of the webinar. In today's webinar, we will review how maintaining standardization and consistency in commissioning process can benefit your business by improving your team's productivity and the quality of the project deliverables. First, a couple of words about myself. My name is Alex Kozinets, and I'm a Chief Product Officer at Facility Grid. I am leading up product strategy and customer success and conducting the educational programming and webinars. My background is in mechanical engineering, construction administration, and commissioning. I have personally used Facility Grid on various commissioning projects throughout my career. So as a former commissioning professional, I'm here to help Facility Grid be even more focused on its customers and their needs. Now let's go to the training session you came for. In today's webinar, we will review the following. We will look at how to maintain standardization and consistency in commissioning process, commissioning documents, project phases and tasks, equipment categories and parameters, testing scripts, and the project deliverables. Again, just as a reminder, you're in a listen-only mode, so I cannot hear you. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask them using the GoToWebinar question widget, and I will answer as many as I can at the end of the webinar. So, how can commissioning providers improve quality of their services? Well, to answer these questions, first, let's look at what is the biggest value that is delivered by commissioning. Well, I'm sure you all know that it comes from ensuring that the equipment and systems operate according to the project requirements, design intent, and the industry standards. It is also very important to properly document the entire commissioning process for any future references by the building O&M teams. Well, therefore, to improve quality, the commissioning teams needs to maximize their time observing, verifying, and testing equipment and systems on a job site, and at the end of the project, deliver consistent and high quality project deliverables. How can this be done? Well, the easiest ways to address this is to standardize the project workflows, asset data collection, and generation of testing scripts and deliverable. There's really no need to reinvent the wheel every time you're starting a commissioning project by recreating something that has already been done by someone on your team. So let's start by reviewing how to maintain various opportunities for standardization and consistency. First, let's look at the commissioning process. The commissioning process is very well described by various agencies, codes, and standards. And these are ASHRAE, LEED, and others. What Facility Grid helps you with is providing you with a placeholder where your company can maintain records of all of these documents. Let's look at Facility Grid library. So as you know, every commissioning company is provided with their own library within Facility Grid. Only the employees of the commissioning company has access to this library. And therefore, it is very helpful to maintain records of all references, standards, codes in the library. Therefore, everyone on your team has access to those documents. So if we look at the company library, there are several sections that allow you to maintain standard documents and templates. The first one is that of documents. So under this section, what we recommend that you store, again, are the typical commissioning documents, and this could be your ASHRAE standards, NFPA, NETA, NEBB, CalGreen, LEED, and basically every single reference that your company may be using on a project to conduct commissioning process. This is a very good place to store them. So you may have several commissioning teams, maybe across different offices, and for every commissioning team, for your entire company to stay on top of what the typical commissioning process is to maintain a library of those documents in Facility Grid in one location where everyone has access to. The other type of standard documents are your typical commissioning documents that you reuse, you can reuse throughout your commissioning process. So this could be the owner project requirements documents, commissioning plan, commissioning specifications. So again, basically, typically commissioning plan and commissioning specs are a standard for certain types of projects. So if you work on existing building commissioning project or new building commissioning projects, and it is very useful to have your standard templates of all those documents in the library where, again, everyone can have access to. Commissioning spec, the general commissioning spec section, again, is a very general spec. And having that spec section already developed, standardized, and across your company, and then use it on every project makes a lot of sense. What we recommend is that obviously you maintain the general version of that spec section in the library, and then once you add that section to your project, you actually tailor it to your to the project needs in terms of the scope and of references to other section in the commissioning specs. The other type of standardization has to do with commissioning phases and commissioning types or project tasks, I should say, based on those phases. So let's look at a couple of commissioning projects. So in Facility Grid, we provide our clients with a lot of flexibility in terms of how to set up a new project. When you create a project, you're going to start by specifying whether it's a new building commissioning or it's an existing building commissioning process. And once you specify if it's a new building commissioning or existing building commissioning, when Facility Grid builds the project workflow for you, we will use the typical phases that apply to those types of commissioning projects. So for example, if we look at a existing building commissioning project, we will set up the phases based on a typical commissioning project where you conduct existing building commissioning services. So, for example, can be retro commissioning, maybe recommissioning, and typically the phases associated with these types of projects are planning, investigation, implementation, turnover, and persistence. We also will build the tasks for you based on a typical existing building commissioning project. So, for example, under the planning phase, we will include the current facility requirements task and commissioning plan tasks. Under investigation phase of the project, we will include these commissioning tasks and so on and so forth. Now, for our clients that would like to further standardize commissioning tasks or commissioning phases, we offer that flexibility where our users can simply come up with the standard layout of the project, and we would standardize it or customize it for our clients. And so when our clients start projects in Facility Grid, they can pick either a predetermined set of tasks for each individual project type, or they can select a set of tasks that has been customized based on their needs. So if we look at a existing, or a new, I should say new building commissioning project, so the tasks are typically design, construction, and occupancy. So these are the phases of the project that we set up based on the standard process. However, some commissioning providers or some projects actually may be using 4 different phases. And the 4th phase could be acceptance phase. So again, as I mentioned before, Facility Grid can standardize your process, can standardize the phases of your project based on how you conduct your commissioning process. And again, why would you want to do this? Is because you want to standardize as much of the activities, as many of the tasks as possible, that will allow you to concentrate less on the project setup, less on documenting records and tasks, but more on actually performing the on-site activities and then assembling at the end of the project your commissioning records. So as you can see on this new commissioning building commissioning project, for this 3 phases, the phases come with a predetermined set of tasks. And again, as you know, you can select whether it's the project is, or the project tasks are based on lead enhanced or lead fundamental commissioning process. Again, it doesn't mean that necessarily the building is pursuing lead certification. It just means that the set of tasks kind of matches to what those requirements are, or we can standardize the list of those tasks for you. And so whenever someone within your team or within your company starts a commissioning project, they will be presented with those preset tasks and phases. Obviously, you can then modify the tasks, you can add additional tasks, you can rename tasks, but again, basically, what we're trying to achieve here is to standardize the process. And if this process has been standardized, for you to start a brand new project in Facility Grid, would be much easier and would take you very little amount of time and will get you ready to actually perform those tasks. The additional efficiency can be achieved by standardization of equipment categories and parameters. So as you know, throughout the commissioning projects, commissioning agents sometimes are required to collect asset data, document asset data, verify asset data to ensure that at the end of the projects, the asset data or asset parameters that are stored in facility grid are verified and match what has been submitted in the equipment submittals, and the data is available to be passed to your building owner if that's your scope of work. In order to set up equipment and systems in facility grid, you can either upload that information into facility grid from Revit models using a COBie format, or you can simply upload Excel spreadsheets with equipment data. And once you upload that information to facility grid, you pretty much are ready to populate, to start working on your project, as the asset data is already built for you for that particular project. However, if you would like to bring additional efficiency and standardization in the asset data collection, facility grid enables you to maintain a library of standard categories and parameters. Let's go back to the library. So the company library in facility grid has a section for equipment categories. Equipment categories are a set of equipment parameters and the units of measurement that are associated with a particular type of equipment. So for example, if we have an air handling unit, the parameters that are associated with the air handling units can be documented as a standard category. So every time your company has to commission an air handling unit, the only thing you would need to do is to select this category from your library. Okay, so basically you can figure out what information, what parameters are required for you to document on your projects, and then maintain these categories in the library. And you can reuse those categories throughout your project. So if you did not have an Excel spreadsheet or a COBie file to upload into the project when you started, but you need to set up your assets within facility grid, instead of figuring out, what data is typically required for a pump or a fan or a UPS. Once you create a library of standard categories, then anyone who creates a project in facility grid on your team can utilize those categories. Now, if we go further, you can document or you can save these categories in the library related to your client. Let's think that you have a client for which you're performing multiple jobs. So it's the best thing that can happen to you to have a repeat business from a client that obviously trusts your services, wants you to be wants you to provide a very high quality um, commissioning process. Okay, well, again, for you to be as efficient as possible, you want to minimize the project setup. You want to deliver information and data at the end of the project that is consistent across all your clients' projects. So to do that, when you create a category in Facility Grid, or when you upload an Excel spreadsheet and that creates a category in Facility Grid, you can save the category under the name of your client. So within the library, you can simply select the your client's name, and the Facility Grid will bring you to the um, library of various categories. Again, so you may have one team working for this particular client today, and maybe next team working on the next building or next project for the same client. So for them to be consistent, all they need to do is when they set up equipment for that client, they would pick a category, standard category for the client. So, for example, if your client is using a CMMS system to maintain their equipment, and CMMS systems, the base of the CMMS systems is the data related to the equipment. So the amount of data or the amount of information related to those to that equipment is typically standardized. So if a CMMS system has a pump, has a fan, has an air handling unit, the building operators or those who maintain equipment only need to know certain information for that piece of equipment. If you think of an air handling unit, there's tons of information that is available. There could be cooling capacity, there could be heating capacity, any other information. But your client may not be interested in this data that sits within the CMMS system. So when you determine what are the parameters for each type of equipment that your client is interested in, again, you can standardize those parameters within Facility Grid and save them as predetermined category. So every time you perform a new project for the same client, you can always reuse the category and always deliver consistent information at the end of the project. Next are the testing scripts. So the testing scripts are pre-functional checklists and FPTs. When I say FPTs and when I say checklists, obviously these are not just your typical, pre-functional, the PFC or functional performance tests. This can be anything. This could be integrated systems tests. This could be factory tests. Any types of tests that can be reused throughout various projects. This is where you want to create templates and again store them in the library to make them available for your entire team. So the way I would like to arrange my library is break it by the trades. So I typically break the library by HVC, plumbing, electrical, and other trades that I might have on my projects for which I have the templates. And then I typically have this folder called all, but obviously you can call it whatever you'd like to call it. But this is where I would store some of the testing scripts that are not necessarily just the PFCs. So in this case, under the all folder, I have factory testing checklist. And then um, I have my, HVC templates, plumbing templates, electrical templates, and basically um, these are the templates that I've created once. I may already have them somewhere in, outside of Facility Grid. Maybe they're in Excel, maybe in Word. Facility Grid provides you with capabilities to upload your standard templates into Facility Grid from Excel. But basically, once you upload them, again, this is where you want to have them. Why? Because you may have one team member, is part of your entire commissioning team, and that team member can store those documents anywhere on his or her hard drive. But if you have more than one member, you may have more than one offices performing commissioning. Having a consistent look and feel of the forms will not only ensure that you deliver high quality documents because of their consistency, but it also will help you um, with when you need to bring someone else to your team, right? Maybe from another office, and for them to be comfortable and familiar with the testing scripts that you've developed. Now, we also have a placeholder for storing FPTs. Well, I'm sure you all know that FPTs are typically created for specific projects. Okay, so they typically are tailored to the actual control sequences related to the commissioned equipment. Okay, but nothing um, uh, um, prevents you from creating a standard outline for those tests. So, for example, for an outline for an air handling unit FPT, what I would like to save is just um, the list of the tests that you would typically perform for an air handling unit. So in this case, I know that when I put together an FPT for an air handling unit, these are the modes of operation that I most likely will be testing. Okay, systems off, safeties, system startup, and so on and so forth. Okay, I can then develop the actual testing procedure based on approved control submittals, based on the design intent. But again, this at least puts me in the right framework for how my FPT is going to be built. And so if I have someone from another office helping me with building an FPT, for me, because maybe I'm busy on another project and I may need someone else's help, will ensure that that person will be working off of the same framework. I have another example here for the integrated systems test. Again, you may have one person actually performing the testing and then another person developing the tests. Okay, so to make sure they all in sync of what's typically tested and how the integrated systems is conducted, again, you can develop the framework for what a typical integrated system test is going to look like. You can describe the different modes that you're planning on testing. You can create these tables of various equipment information that you're going to be collecting throughout the testing. And again, this will ensure that your entire project team or your entire commissioning team, I should say, working off the same framework, producing consistent test plans and results. And the last field of standardization is obviously final commissioning deliverables. So in Facility Grid, the final commissioning deliverables are the final commissioning report and the systems manual. These can be developed in our report section, and Facility Grid provides you with functionality to develop these reports right within the software. So instead of going somewhere outside of software, outside of Facility Grid to put together your reports, to put together those documents, you can do it all within the software. So how do you ensure that your deliverables are standard? So basically, for the final commissioning report, Facility Grid has combined the requirements of the lead commissioning process and the ASHRAE guidelines. And basically, we came up with this outline for a final commissioning report that includes executive summary, commissioning process plan, and also various appendixes. Now, Facility Grid gives you pretty much unlimited customization opportunities where you can add additional sections, you can remove sections, and again, tailor this deliverable to your project needs. And once you figure out what is the standard deliverable outline for the final commissioning plan, again, you can make that a custom outline, and Facility Grid can help you with saving that custom outline. So every time you work on a commissioning project, you can simply use that outline to develop the final documents. Now, at the same time, we also have opportunity to develop systems manual, again, right within commissioning, within the software. So the systems manual is the outline for the systems manual is built based on ASHRAE guideline 1.4. And again, it allows you to standardize what the deliverable is. Again, we provide you with pretty much unlimited functionality to tailor this deliverable to the project needs. You can add sections, you can remove sections, you can rename sections, you can turn sections into appendixes. So basically, to make it as specific to what your project calls for. And if you'd like to standardize the way your company produces a report, if you would like to standardize the outline for that for the systems manual, again, Facility Grid can help you with that process. And the last item is just custom reports. Now, custom reports can be pretty much anything. Your custom report may be a report on your site observations. All right. So again, you can pretty much create unlimited number of custom reports. You can add any sections to your report, and again, stay consistent. So if on a future project you need to develop a similar report, you have an opportunity to reuse the format, or you reduce the outline that you've used on the previous projects. This completes the webinar. I have a couple of questions here. Let me go through them, and I'll try to answer them for you. So the first question is, what is private folder in the library? It's a very good question. So as I mentioned at the beginning, each company within Facility Grid is provided with their own library. Now, I should point out it's not just each company within Facility Grid, but each CXA company within Facility Grid is provided with their company library. No one else outside of their company has access to the library. Okay, so you can put any information, any documents that you'd like within the library, and no one else working on your projects, whether it's contractors or even your client, do not have access to the library. We went a step further and actually allowed you to have your own space within the library where you can put some tests or some procedures that you may not want to share with the rest of your team. Maybe you're working on some confidential project. Maybe there's some tests that you want to keep again confidential. In that case, this is what you would store them in. And so you can when you work on the project, you can always reuse these tests stored in a private folder, but no one else on your team or from your company will have access to your private library. And I think I have another question here. And the question is how to save FPT templates into the library. Okay, it's a great question. So there are two ways to save FPTs or checklists into the library. The first way is you can simply create a new FPT within the library or upload an FPT from an Excel template. So to upload an Excel template, you can simply click on this icon and just walk through the process of how you need to create the template and then upload it into Facility Grid. And again, to add a new FPT, you can simply just click on this icon and click on Add FPT. So these are two most common ways of creating the templates. You can also save any existing FPT or a checklist, for that matter, that you've created on a particular project into the library. So if you go into any of your tests, and let's say you go to an FPT test, if you are looking at the FPTs on the type level, and you open any of these FPTs, then you can simply click on this icon, Save as a Template. Okay, and Facility Grid will ask you which folder you'd like to place your FPT in, and also provide a name for your template. Okay, if you are looking at the FPTs on equipment level, in order for you to be able to save any FPT to the library, or also if you're looking at FPT, for example, that you wrote for a particular system, you need to open that FPT in the edit format. So, for example, if let's look at the system. So, if I have a system, let's say this Atrium Makeup Air. So if I scroll down, there is an FPT that is associated with this particular system. So if I want to save this FPT in the library, all I need to do is under Actions, open this FPT in the edit form. And again, when I open it in the edit form, it allows me to also save it as a template. I do not have any more questions. So thank you very much for attending today's webinar, and I look forward to seeing you on the future ones.